Paul Ryan, and it is a comprehensive, holistic plan to deal with our debt, our entitlement, our out-of-control spending. It lowers and simplifies taxes, bringing the personal income rate down to 10 to 25%. It lowers corporate taxes to keep our country more competitive. It reduces over $4 trillion in taxes compared to Obama's proposed budget, which, by the way, raises taxes by $1.9 trillion. So I am a supporter of the fair tax. I have, in fact, had hundreds of thousands of dollars of negative advertising run against me by Democrats because of that position. And frankly, I support any kind of tax reform that's going to keep more money in your pocket and less in the government's pocket. The wonderful thing, again, about supporting tax programs like the fair tax or any kind of tax reform is that you have the opportunity to bring that bill to the floor of the House and to discuss the fact that we have a tax system in place today that punishes productivity. It drives investors and investment overseas. So when we wonder and scratch our heads where the jobs have gone, friends, look around us. North Carolina has the 5th highest gas tax in the country. If you live on a border state, a border county, where do you or your neighbors or friends go to buy your gas or your other products? You go to South Carolina, you go to Virginia. The reality is, on a national level, we could make our business climate much more attractive and productive if we were not, and listen clearly, if we were not the #1 highest corporate tax rate in the world. That's America, and we need to change it. Thank you.
I certainly have no opposition to the fair tax, but I'm a proponent of a flat tax. Part of that is due to my experience working on Capitol Hill for Senator Helms and Senator Dole and serving in the executive branch. There's never been a bill that's been brought to the floor of either the House or the Senate that hasn't been modified substantially by the time it makes its way through the process. The last thing we could afford in this country is to have both an income tax and a national sales tax. And so, for that pragmatic reason, I much strongly favor a flat tax. And in fact, when elected to the U.S. Congress, I plan on the first day to introduce a bill to institute a flat tax. Now, there's absolutely no question we got to get rid of the corporate income tax in this country. It is a deterrent to jobs and creativity. Capital goes where it is welcome. And the corporate income tax is a strong statement to the world that capital is not welcome in this country.
Mr. Crow?
I've heard these sweeping changes. Sometimes I don't know that sweeping changes work. If I had my druthers, I would like no taxes. But I think reducing the corporate income tax rate from 35% to 15% would be something that should have been done yesterday. North Carolina, we're 47th highest taxes in the United States. South Carolina is, can't remember, I think it's like 15th or 16th, I'm not sure. But they have a lot of things that we don't have that are knocking us out. I think 15% is a generous plenty, and so I would like that to be a tax rate across the board. But how you get these things, I think you have to cut back on your expenses of running the government, and so I'm in favor of the less taxes, the better. Thank you.
Okay, we have a question here. This is to Mr. Crow. Based on your experience, what positive changes have you brought to your community and to the state of North Carolina?
What positive changes have I brought to my... Well, lived in Wilmington from 1984 until 2005, and I've always been a concerned citizen. I've run in a lot of different political races. I think that we made some good changes as far as our inner city is concerned. I think that there was a lot of grumbling. There was a community action group. I stayed on the front row of that for a very long time, and we went in and got a lot of problems because there was quite frankly, there was quite a bit of racism going on in Wilmington. There were some things as far as everything that had to do with the city. There was a lot of planning that went to change on the heights of the buildings and just everything about downtown. I was in the middle of all of those things. I've weighed in on the convention center, I've weighed in on the port, I've weighed in on, I don't know how much you can say, well, Randy did this or Randy did that. I don't know, but I've always been a team player, and I was there, and I offered what I think were good ideas, and I think some people took advantage of them. I've always been in favor of free enterprise and letting the small businessman make some money. I have I've complained about let's see, these the hospital using these ways to finance that I thought were going to get them in trouble, and they didn't pay too much attention to me. And I think that they are in trouble now. If they'd have listened to me, they'd be in better shape. But I have, you know, and Kelly, you might not realize it, I'm not the oldest, but I'm almost the oldest in the fire department. And but anyway, I don't think I've done anything monumental there. I'm there.
If you're a firefighter, you've done some monumental things.
I've been there.
Okay, Senator Rouse.
You know, looking back over the course of my career, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of things. And, you know, starting back with my time with Senator Helms, where we worked on the Hurricane Floyd relief package. You know, a lot of families were hurt. A lot of families were flooded out in eastern North Carolina. And I was very proud to work on that package and to help in that regard. The tobacco quota buyout, which I'm well noted for in this area, helped save many farm families in eastern North Carolina. In the state legislature, the regulatory reform effort that we put forward, completely reforming the way rules and regulations are processed in the state. So now, for the first time, they have to take into account any impact, any negative impact on business. And probably the thing I'm most proud of is not legislative at all, but through my role in the state senate, to help get the School of Christ in every single prison here in the state of North Carolina, and it's saving lives.
Public service has been something that's important to me my entire life. I've had a God-shaped hole in my heart for a long time of that life, and I tried to fill it with things like service. Ultimately, I would be able to fill it with salvation, but in the interim, I'd like to tell you about just a couple of the projects I've been involved in. When I was a young Marine in my teens, I would go off duty and volunteer to paint an abused women's shelter in Jacksonville, North Carolina. I was a Boy Scout Sea Explorer, and we restored a museum called the Intrepid Sea Space Museum, which is very similar to the Battleship North Carolina. I'm telling you these things because they're things I wasn't paid to do. They were things that I did on my own. I was a volunteer with the Red Cross after Hurricane Katrina. I spent 2 weeks picking up shattered lives down in Mississippi and Alabama and handing out coloring books and crayons to little kids that had nothing after I had handed out coloring books and crayons to little kids that had nothing in Iraq. And I will tell you that that was a heartbreaking experience. I think that the thing that I am most humbled to have been a part of is authoring a book about my Christian salvation for men and women that come home from war that need to know that real men can love Jesus. Thank you.
As we begin, and we're not at the end, but as we begin to focus on the last questions, most of them have to do with the economy and how we're going to make life better for the citizens and for our nation as well. The last question, and I chose it from a group of questions, speaks to two things. First of all, their commitment to their community, and then the fact that as you move forward, whoever